Hi, Anaisa. Ashley here. I also agreed with the REB therapy. I had a really hard time selecting or choosing for this one because it was such a brief clip that we watched. But as far as the thinking and behaving goals that were established, mine are kind of right there along with you. He specifically asked her, "What are you thinking? What are you going to remember from this?" I like how he shifted that. First, he said, "What are you thinking?" But then he asked her, like, "What are you going to remember?" And then instead of saying, "What goals do you have?" he said, "What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with this?" And he also before even establishing that, before even establishing or asking, "What are you going to do?" he really validated her thought of thinking about the self sabotage and oh, I can't remember it all. But he kind of established, or she had talked about thinking about continuing to see her counselor, and then he said, "Well, it sounds like you have a plan. Now, what are you going to do?" So he had kind of already put it in her head that she had this goal or she had this stuff that she was going to do, and then he asked her specifically what she was going to do about it. And so yeah, mine are right there along with you in that sense. And then as far as number two goes, I agree. I thought it was REB therapy for those same reasons. With the person centered, my immediate thought, and maybe this was just quick to judge or quick to think, but he was asking her questions, and that didn't seem like that's not person centered, right? Person centered, the client is the one who leads and guides, and it's just like a journey that ebbs and flows with each other. And then he also had, and I think you spoke about this, he had mentioned how I think he had mentioned something to her is what it seemed when she was saying about the self-sabotaging. I'm going to remember what you said about self-sabotaging. He was giving her input with that. So that also ruled out the person-centered. And then with the behavior therapy, he was asking what she was thinking on and focusing on her, like the whole person and not just her behaviors around it. And especially I thought that especially when she was talking about I'm going to try to let him go, and he was really validating and reassuring with, well, that's all you've got right now, and that's the best you can do, and that's somewhere to focus on. Whereas I feel like with behavior, I feel like there would have been more to that. There would have been more of, I don't know. Yeah, there would have just been more to that. For number three, you were talking about the different kind of things and situations that you would use, approaches to the whole human, the whole child. I am like, that is a part of my philosophy as an educator, and I think probably as a counselor would be approaching the whole person, the whole child, not just the behavior, not just the academia, the emotions as well, the social part of it, all of it. The bibliotherapy and the rational coping statements. And this is also what makes me think of, you said this, it was like the reframing of I fail, or I didn't get them all right, so I failed, reframing to the best I can do, which also brings me back to the therapy session where he reframed that for her, or he helped her say, like, this is the best you can do right now, right? The role playing, modeling, and modeling for students, the one-on-one, all those things. Yeah, I totally agree with them. Group work, small work, or one-on-one sessions, those are all really powerful things that would be helpful to utilize as a school counselor with the kids, specifically geared toward the REB therapy. With number four, the aspects of it that would make it easy or difficult. The extensions of the ABC, because the ABC is kind of like, right, we can point that out. The D&E would be a little bit more challenging, but I feel like the D&E is where the shift really happens, right? Because it's really challenging those beliefs. And then shifting those beliefs and then finding the effects of those beliefs, the shifted beliefs. That does seem really difficult, and I think that kind of stuff takes time. Like, we can't just shift our perspective or shift our belief so quickly, especially if those things are kind of um, the word I'm looking for, like ingrained in you when you're, I think a lot of these beliefs start when we're a little bit younger, and then they become like reinforced and they're kind of ingrained deep in like your soul, or the being. And so that can be hard. And I think a part of that, so it'll take time. And as I think as counselors, we also don't have the capacity for so much. We do, but I think oftentimes we're pulled into other situations, and consistency can be a little bit challenging. So that's one area that I thought was difficult. And then I also really loved how you recognized, like, within your school, there is really not a counselor. And then your the community of your school is mostly lower SES, and making sure to consider and acknowledge different cultural aspects. And that's really important, because especially when it comes to REB, I think some of these beliefs have been passed down, like through our parents, through generations, whether or not it's overt or covert, right? It's just there. And so having that background knowledge of and keeping that in mind when working with these kids, that's going to be really important. And it's also going to be really challenging. But yeah, so I love that you brought that up. And then for number 5, you talked about using REB. And I think person-centered would be really hard, as you said, for the younger kids, because I do think they need a little bit of guidance and structure, and they need a little support. They don't always know what to ask. They don't always know what they're feeling. They don't always know how to express their thoughts. So I think guidance is kind of imperative in those younger ages. Not saying it's not for older kids, but I do think that with the young ones, it's kind of necessary and needed. And the behavior is lacking the personal and emotional. I don't love behavior therapy. I don't love using like sticker charts and stuff like that. I think especially with kids who come from a lot of trauma, not getting that sticker, or not getting that reward is reinforcing those limiting beliefs that are already there. And I think that can be detrimental. I think switching, like I talked about in my video, building self-esteem and building that sense of I can and I'm worthy, and that sense of self-efficacy is really powerful, especially with the young kids, because their minds are able to absorb. I think they're able to absorb a little bit more. And granted, they're still kind of figuring out who they are, right? I mean, we all are, I think, in some sense, but I don't know. I have a difficult time with behavior therapy, and I've seen it work really well, but I've also seen it have really negative effects. And yeah, I don't know. So I agree. I would also utilize the REB therapy, but great video. I enjoyed watching, and have a great Sunday.